What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championships here at the MLG Arena in Columbus, Ohio. We are about ready to actually move on to the Group A finals. We will be seeing Northern Blue next going up against Panda Global before we get on to that Method versus the other one earlier, Splice. Sorry, I forgot the name of the team for a second. I should know these things a little bit better than that. Speaking of people that know things better than I do, I've got two of them up here on the stage with me. Elliot Venzel, a.k.a. Venruki, as well as Rodney Pare, a.k.a. Talbadar. Guys, we've had some ridiculous series today. Also, by the way, I missed you guys. I'm glad to be back up here again. But we've had some amazing series here today. Northern Blue versus Panda Global. I think this one might actually be a little bit tough to call.
Absolutely is going to be tough to call. Both of these teams well known for that rogue mage paladin composition. We saw Northern Gaming Blue actually use something else. They didn't really play it too much in the last series, but I think this match particularly, we're going to end up seeing a mirror match. And it's really going to be, I think, one of the most well-practiced rogue mages from North America versus one of the most well-practiced rogue mages from Europe, and truly see which one's the best.
Yeah, and what I've seen backstage is dominance coming from Panda Global in those mirror matches throughout the past 2 weeks at regionals, throughout practice. They always do so well in the Mage Rogue matchup, so I'm expecting them to come out really strong here.
Yep. Let's actually talk a little bit about Northern Blue here for just a second, because this is the team. It's Minpoika, Waz, Raikou, and Zuniaki. These guys, I've always been super impressed with them. I think I personally would probably peg these guys as probably my favorite European team to watch. They're so good at this game, and they've always had just really, really good synergy with each other, and there's just a lot of talent on that team as well. A lot of people that have been around for a long time. Minpoika is actually a great example of this. He's been to so many BlizzCons at this point. He's always played well. He's done done extremely well in a lot of online tournaments as well. And we kind of peg him as the philosopher here, and the reason for that is he's actually a really, really interesting person. He has gone through such a transformation over the past several years, really sort of focusing on, like, I think he called it self-development when we were talking to him. And it was really interesting the way that he phrased that, because he was saying he's constantly trying to make himself better, both in the game as well as a person. And I just think that's a really cool attitude to have towards trying to improve yourself as a gamer and as a professional WoW player in that extent. I don't know, I just found it really interesting.
Yeah, he's a very calm person, trying to, of course, improve himself, like he likes to say, through learning new stuff by reading books, through nutrition, and practicing World of Warcraft a lot. Obviously, he loves that game a lot, and him specifically said that he doesn't really care at all about winning the money. This is something he wants to achieve for himself. He's been playing this game for so long, so that's really what he wants, and I think he has a great shot this year.
It reminds me when I started first playing Arena, I was yelling at my teammates initially. I was getting very angry with them, and I feel like Minpoika had that same pass where he was getting very troubling with his teammates, and he wasn't happy with that. So we decided to go through a full change, and now he's here. He's a lot more calm, collected, and he's ready to take this tournament.
Yeah, he's seriously one of the nicest guys nowadays. It really has been an amazing transformation from him. Let's talk about Panda Global a little bit now, though. We saw them earlier facing off against Longzhu Gaming, the team from Korea, which unfortunately had a little bit of an issue. They didn't have their healer, so I feel like we didn't really get to see the true Panda Global come out because they just weren't they weren't being pushed quite as hard as maybe they could have been. So now we're going to see them up against Northern Blue here. And this is, of course, the team composed of Rubcub, Wealthy Man, Jax, and CMG. And talking about CMG here a little bit, you can see him on your screen. He normally plays Shadow Priest. That's kind of what he's known for, but we're kind of calling him the specialist, and I believe the reason we're doing that is just because he kind of fills a few particular niches on his team. He's able to step in as that Shadow Priest, and I believe he has a couple of other sort of maybe not quite, what's the word I'm looking for? He has some options for his class and spec choice that aren't necessarily going to be good in every single composition, but there's a couple of good counters that he can pull out as a result of that.
Yeah, they've been practicing a lot with CMG. Not only that, but he just has he's a really fun guy to talk to because he's really intelligent. He knows a lot about World of Warcraft, and he offers those strategies and those different opinions to his team when he is watching. But yeah, definitely he can play that Shadow Priest. They do have that Shatter play, that Shadow Priest Mage Paladin composition available, so they can always fall back on that if they need to.
Yeah, and even though he's sitting on the bench a lot of the time, I notice him giving feedback to his team during and after the game, saying, hey guys, maybe we should try this next time. And it really helps your team when you have that fourth person overlooking the game and saying, hey, maybe we should try this. I was watching you guys do this, and even though you're in the middle of the game, this was happening on the other side. So really good to have that fourth person watching out for you.
Yeah, so Rodney, while we're on the subject of Northern Blue versus Panda Global, which I guess is going to be the subject for the next foreseeable future. So that's a pretty bad segue. I apologize. But what are you guys? What are you thinking about this next matchup? What predictions are you going to make?
Panda Global has been so strong for me in the Mage Rogue mirror, and I don't see anything but that happening here. So I'm really hoping to see with Panda Global coming out on top here.
Okay, Elliot, what about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things Panda Global has really going for them in this matchup is that Rubcub is such a well-versed paladin. Obviously, Minpoike plays it a lot too, but Rubcub has been a pally main for quite some time. These guys specifically play that rogue mage paladin composition so much, and I really feel like a lot of the teams here don't give them necessarily, I don't want to say they count them out, but I don't think they get the respect they deserve because they really are one of the best teams here, and I think they play this composition as good as anyone.
Okay, these are all very reasonable points. We're going to go down to Rich as well and get his thoughts on this upcoming match. Rich, are you thinking Panda Global or are you thinking Northern Blue?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Panda Global. That was initially the prediction that I did make. As I walked across the stage, everyone from Panda Global, I was like, how do you feel about this match? And they're like, oh, we're going to win. But then as I came up to the other side, and I actually did get to talk to Northern Gaming Blue, Waz had plenty of things to say. He started off kind of slow, being really polite. He said that he thinks he has an 80% to a 90% win rate against Jax right now, and he also says if Minpoke plays well, they'll definitely win. But right before I went on, he looked at me and he went, hey, Rich. I look over and he holds up a 3, and then he makes the O. So I think they're pretty confident going into this match. Back to you, Josh.
All right, that sounds a bit like Waz. Yeah, that sounds pretty much appropriate for him. Personally, I actually kind of think that Northern Gaming Blue has at least a really good chance to be able to take this one here. It's going to be difficult for sure. I think you guys are very much on point with the concept that that Panda Global, that's a very, very difficult team to actually beat, and we didn't really get to see them really flex their full muscle earlier. But I do think that Northern Gaming Blue actually has a pretty good shot at this.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I do think that Panda Global has maybe a slight edge. It's really, you can't count Northern Gaming Blue out. They're such a phenomenal team, such skilled players that I really feel like no matter which way the series goes, it's probably going to be a 3-2.
Oh, this is definitely going to be a really, really good series, and I cannot wait to get into this and find out exactly what's going on. Remember, this is a blind pick, so until the game actually starts, we do not know what compositions and classes they're actually going to be locking in here. We do know, however, it will be on the Grand Arena. The first match of the series is always on the Grand Arena. Just a nice, well-balanced map. But the game is getting underway. We will be getting into the game here very, very shortly. I guess it's probably worth pointing out that both of these teams are kind of known for that rogue mage composition. They've both played a lot of that in the past. So I don't know. As you can see now, now that it's up on your screen, Panda Global going with the rogue mage, but Northern Gaming Blue, they're trying something a little bit different here, busting out the Ret Rogue.
Well, and Northern Gaming Blue, that's one of the tremendous things about them is they play that Rogue Mage setup. They know exactly how it works, so maybe they feel like Ret Rogue Druid really does have that big of an advantage that they can counter-comp with this. There's no reason to mirror Panda Global. They do have a lot of experience with that, but do they have an experience going up against that Ret Rogue Restoration Druid? And we'll have to see.
Yeah, and there's a sap onto Jax into a Cyclone with now a sap on the Rubcub. Big opener here coming out from Team NG Blue. There's a Garrote on the Wealthman. They're trying to get damage out. They decided to go onto Jax for the start of the game. He did not pop his Vendetta, neither did Waz yet. I want to see who their target choices are going to be in the start of this game.
Yeah, Jax actually deciding to trinket there immediately. Zuniaki and Waz both using no cooldown, so now Jax could be in a lot of trouble the next time they do land a stun onto him. Of course, Rubcub will have that Blessing of Protection available if he needs it. But interesting choice coming out from Jax, who is, once again, being the target of choice for Zuniaki and Waz. Zuniaki taking quite a bit of damage, though, as well. Down to 10% HP. Minpoike actually having to get out of that stun. Zuniaki able to dispel it with that Sanctuary, Blessing of Sanctuary. So Minpoike not going to be CC'd up. Zuniaki should be fine for now. Panda Global on the back foot a little bit. Jax at around 50% HP, already using Cloak of Shadows, already using Evasion, and already using his Vanish, so he has no more defensive cooldowns left.
Yeah, and Jax actually getting slowed and fully kited on his Vendetta. Now he's in a kidney shot, taking tons of damage. They decided that Jax is their target. Jax deciding to train Zuniaki. They did not get Bubble or Bot there, and that was their Vendetta, so really behind here, Panda Global, and that really stinks for them because now they don't have any offensive cooldowns for a while, and Jax is taking a ton of damage. Looks like Waz is actually swapping between Rubcub and Jackson. Rubcub's actually taking a ton of damage here. He has the wings up. He's deciding not to bubble yet. He does bop eventually, and I believe that was the Vendetta. Yes, it was Vendetta, and now that's down. But Zuniaki taking some damage here. They need to get CC going on him in Poke, but I believe he's completely avoiding Wealthy Man's CC right now.
It's an interesting choice for him to use that Blessing and Protection. I guess he does have another charge of it. He's playing that double Blessing and Protection spec, so he does not have that Avenging Crusader. No melee wings going up against Waz and Zuniaki. So he has one more buff available for Jax as well as himself. He has Bubble also. Zuniaki now being pushed put into that kitty shot. The Hodge going out onto Minpoike. Zuniaki getting out, using that Blessing of Sanctuary once again to remove the CC off of Minpoike. Minpoike able to comfortably throw out that Iron Bark. Zuniaki's going to be completely fine. And now Northern Gaming Blue trying to turn around the pressure out over onto Jax, hovering at around 50% HP. Can Rubcub top him off right now? He does not have his wings available. Was shutting down Rubcub's heals the best he can. The split strategy coming out from Northern Gaming Blue working out very, very well against this Holy Pally. Zuniaki being swapped to now. The Dragon's Breath going out onto Minpoike. Zuniaki actually having to use his bubble there. Tries to get away with that Divine Steed, but a little too late, so it is going to proc that bubble.
And that's huge. Having your auto bubble go down already is a big deal. Now he's getting garroted. They're trying to get damage out, but Rubcub actually taking ton of damage as well. Sitting at 10% HP. He's trying to save his bubble best he can. He's actually avoiding using it altogether right now. He does decide to eventually use it because Jax is sitting at 5% from Zuniaki. He's trying to get away, but Rubcub should be able to at least get some healing out, but he doesn't have wings up, so he's actually doing very little healing. If he catches any CC from Minpoike right now, he could be in trouble, but Minpoike hiding behind the pillar, doesn't want to expose himself to any other crowd control from Wealthy Man.
Yeah, absolutely not, but Panda Global's in a lot of trouble right now. Rubcub doesn't have anything left but that Blessing of Protection. The full clone going out onto Jax. They're trying to reconnect over onto Rubcub. Zuniaki chasing him down. Can Waz reconnect as well? Jax coming back in full retreat, trying to do everything he can to peel. The full kidney shot going out onto Rubcub. Managed to bop it immediately, though. The Vortex from Minpoike going to be pulling him back in. And now Jax is in a lot of trouble. The bash coming up from Minpoike. Jax is going to go down. Rubcub also taking a tremendous amount of damage. Northern Gaming Blue once again throwing out another composition we didn't even know that they can run. Zuniaki doing such an incredible job on that Retribution Paladin. They're able to take this first game very, very convincingly. And honestly, I'm so impressed with this team. Obviously, they've been practicing a lot. They have all the right compositions, making all the right plays, and they are going to take the first game because of it.
Yeah, and I do feel like they sort of won the blind pick there as well. They knew that that Panda Global tends to run that Rogue Mage composition. And instead of opting to try and get the mirror, they decided we're going to go ahead and run with that Ret Rogue composition, which is known for being pretty strong against the Rogue Mage setup. So that was very, very well done by NG Blue. It was a little dicey at certain points. Zuniaki was in some trouble for a while, but they managed to pull it back together and respond by pulling a whole ton of cooldowns and then eventually taking that kill. We do have Rich standing by, and Rich, I know that you've been following these two rogues incredibly closely. What did you think about that matchup?
It's the rivalry to watch, hands down. Waz is out for blood. He wants to prove that he is the best rogue here. He doesn't care if it's a mirror matchup as long as he has a mirror rogue to prove himself against. And once again, he did say he thinks he has an 80 or a 90% win rate against Jax, but I would not count Jax out yet, not by any means. Josh, back to you.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, that was a very, very strong showing from Waz in that last one. We just constantly saw him on top of Rubcub the entire time, but still able to make those quick swaps whenever he needed to, and then eventually being able to swap over onto Jax. Like, how many times in that match did we see both Jax and Rubcub with, like, no health whatsoever? Zuniaki sticking on usually Jax, and Waz just pinging around all over the place, making sure that Rubcub never feels safe himself, but also doesn't really get the opportunity to go onto Jax.
Well, it's really difficult because as a Holy Paladin, you need to be able to cast, you need to be able to kite to top yourself off when you're getting trained down. When you split against the Holy Pally, it's an interesting conundrum for them because not only do they want to run away, but their partner's getting low as well, so they have to kind of make that decision. Do they run away and top themselves off? Do they keep their partner alive? And you can force a lot of cooldowns out of them because you can see Waz on the screen doing such an excellent job on that rogue so far. The King of Shadows, self-proclaimed best rogue in the world. He's just really out here today looking to prove himself. He's one of the youngest players in the tournament, and he's just done such a phenomenal job so far.
Yeah, and that really reminded me of how Fobs was playing in the last series. We had him stunning one guy, getting all his dots up, going over to the other player, getting more dots up. So the swapping back and forth between the Rogue and the Paladin really won them that match for me. So it's awesome to see. One thing I'm curious about, though, Rubcub not playing the Avenging Crusader, which I've seen him play that all day, all week, and I don't know why he was not playing it in that specific game.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting choice. My only thought was maybe he thought that the longer wings would be more useful for dealing with the Vendetta, possibly, but it does seem like the extra pressure almost certainly would have helped them out a lot there. We'll have to see if they end up making that change for this next game. Remember, it is now their map choice, so Panda Global will be able to pick the map first, then Northern Gaming Blue will choose what composition they're going to run, and then Panda Global will have the opportunity to pick into that composition. But starting with that map pick, where do you guys think they're going to go from here?
Well, I think that, firstly, I believe Northern Gaming Blue is going to go back to that Rogue mage paladin composition. That's their bread and butter. They feel obviously really great that they won that first game with winning that blind pick. But yeah, I think if they run that, the Ret. If Northern Gaming Blue decides to play Ret Rogue again, obviously Panda Global is going to be able to use CMG. We've talked about him as that fourth. They can bust out that Shadow Priest, play that Shadow Priest Frost Mage Paladin comp, and I think it's going to be super effective against that. So as Northern Gaming Blue, I feel like you have no choice but to play the Rogue Mage Paladin comp because it's the safest option.
Do you think that Panda Global, has something to be able to deal with that? Ooh, this is interesting. Panda Global has actually chosen Blade's Edge as their map. This is the second time we've seen this map today, second or third time that we've seen this map today. We didn't see it hardly at all at either of the regional events, so it's really interesting that they've chosen to go there. Rodney, what sort of strategy do you think they're going to try and pull out of this map choice?
From the last game I saw, Minpoike didn't really get CC'd much, did he? And because of that, they said, we need a map where we could get him CC'd because he ran around freely the entire game, was never polymorphed, was avoiding Wealthy Man at all costs. And I think this is the map they chose to stop that. If they pull the two melee across the map into the center of the bridge, the healer has to come out into the center of the bridge as well. And that's when Wealthy Man can actually get that CC off that he needs. He was not able to do that at all in the Grand.
Yeah, Wealthy Man really needs the support of Rubcub, though. Rubcub has to be getting those Hodges so Wealthy Man can get the Polymorphs out of it. Dragon's Breath, especially if Minpoike is playing that Relentless, isn't going to last long enough for him to get those sheeps out of it. So either Minpoike has to make mistakes and not shift the Polymorph, so that means go into Bear form and immune it, or go into Cat form and immune it. But yeah, he either needs to make mistakes, or Wealthy Man is going to need the addition of Rubcub to get those Hodges out.
So we talked a little bit about Waz a second ago, and I want to take a second to talk about the other rogue, which is Jax. He's someone that we saw him playing quite a bit. Obviously, we saw quite a bit of his play versus Longzhu earlier in the day, but like I was saying earlier, we didn't really get to see any of them flex too much there because of the unfortunate situation that Longzhu is in. So Jax, however, like we kind of called him the strategist or the analytical assassin. There we go. He's kind of always been super. The team sort of described him as the guy who comes up with these like crazy ideas, and he's the one who steps back and says, hey, what if we tried this instead? What if we tried this other thing? Do you think that that's going to play in here in any major factor? Is part of the choice of, especially if they're going to something like Blade's Edge, is that because they've got some sort of crazy new strategy up their sleeve?
I'm not exactly sure, but another thing Jax does that's really cool is he uses an add-on called Recount, and uses a lot of that data to sort of determine how he could be doing more damage. So he plays against a rogue, another rogue does more damage than him. He really breaks it down and says why. Why is that happening? He can change his rotation. He can help his partners change his rotation. And that's one of the interesting things to me about him, because I love that sort of analytical approach to making sure you're min-maxing all of your stats and all of your damage. And I feel like in North America, he's one of the rogues that does the highest damage, and I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, any season where I've played against Jax, anytime I see his name in the opener, I'm so scared all of a sudden, because I know my dispersion, whatever defensive cooldown I have is getting used immediately. So I'm glad to see him here. I believe he belongs here, and yeah, the analytical part is something you want on your team. You want at least one of the 4 players to have that analytical mindset, to look at damage and say, okay, you know, you're not doing enough damage here. Maybe we should avoid this ability, because, you know, we took 40% of his damage was just one ability, so we gotta avoid that. And it's really good to have a player like that on your team.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, that whole team, I think it's worth talking about a little bit, just that Wealthy Man, I believe, is the only one on that team that's been to a BlizzCon previously. I believe several of them have competed at regional events before, but none of them have ever made it this far. So Wealthy Man was playing with Cloud9 last year, did incredibly well, maybe sort of having to be the, I think we called him the MVP of that team earlier, just having to be the one with a little bit of tournament experience under his belt. The rest of them, this is kind of uncharted territory for them, and in a lot of cases, this is kind of the first time we're really seeing them able to sort of bust out of their, almost like bust out of their shells, I guess, bust out of their previous gameplay and see what they can bring to the table at an actual online event, or excuse me, offline event here at the MLG Arena. So it's really, really cool to see a team of so much new blood actually doing so well here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Wealthy Man there. A lot of the players thought that he did such an incredible job at the Americas Regionals event, just doing such an incredible amount of damage, also providing that crowd control, really playing Frost Mage as well as that Fire Mage to a T. So we're going to be looking to see what he's going to be doing this game. We've got to see how he sets up with, of course, Rubcub with those Hammer of Justices, and I think that's going to be key for them winning this next game.
Yeah, and he seems to be the mage-on-mage master. Anytime I see him play against another mage, whether it's Jamili, Raikou, it doesn't matter. He always has one-upping them. He's blinking their polys, getting the polys off, CCing them when he's going on the healer. He does a great job of getting damage out as well. It's just crazy to watch him play. Really one of the best mages I've seen in a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been really, really impressed with the way Wealthy Man plays mage. So we have a couple minutes here. We're giving these teams plenty of time to make sure that everything is all set. So let's do a real quick run through of our user interface for anybody who's maybe joined us since the last time we went over it. So you can see we have made some changes. The cooldowns are now indicated below the health bars on either side of the screen. So that top row that you see there, that's going to be your primary defensive cooldowns, the things that you use to try to avoid dying. And then the second row, in the case of healers, that's going to be throughput cooldowns, things that increase your healing output. For a DPS class, that's going to be major cooldowns like combustion and so on. Looking at the trinket now, you can be able to tell which talent they've chosen in that first row of honor talents, if it's adaptation, relentless, or the standard gladiator's medallion. When they use one of those offensive cooldowns, you'll be able to see their nameplate sort of light up and catch on fire and show that they're really trying to put out as much damage or as much healing as possible. And when they use a defensive cooldown, like you can see here, Healing Stat has his Divine Shield active. That's going to have a little shield icon that shows up behind that nameplate. And then if you look at the actual nameplates and the characters out in the actual game area, they're color-coded a little bit here. The health bars are coded according to what class they're playing, so you can see Talbadar on a Shaman, Supati's on a Druid there, and I'm playing Fire Mage apparently. But the rest of them are going to be, the rest of the colors are going to be coordinated by team, so red or blue. And then finally, up at the top of the screen, once we do get into dampening, if the game goes on long enough, you'll be able to see how much that dampening debuff is currently stacked up to that reduces the amount of healing being done by everyone in the arena. So just a quick run through on everything. I've actually been really happy with the way that the new tournament UI is working out. I've been finding it very, very simple to follow, so I've been really pleased with that. But I believe we're about to find out what composition this team has locked in of Northern Gaming Blue. Do you guys have any predictions on that composition you want to get in before it comes up?
No, I think they're going to end up running that Rogue, Mage, Paladin composition. Just ultra safe choice going into the blind pick. It really doesn't leave Panda Global really too many options. At best, they have to mirror them, so they're on an even playing field in that regard.
Yeah, I'm torn between the Ret Rogue and the Mage Rogue. I think both are pretty solid against this team here because one problem with Panda Global is that they can't run too many compositions and they're not as comfortable with other ones besides Mage Rogue. And we do have the Fire Mage, Assassination Rogue, Holy Paladin. They're ready for that mirror matchup.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking earlier about how in that mirror matchup, going with the Fire Mage actually helps quite a bit to deal with the opposing, the enemy team's mage over something like a Frost Mage, just because of the instant cast that the Fire Mage has versus the ramp-up time that it takes to actually get significant damage out as the Frost Mage. So we're going to find out now if Panda Global is going for the mirror match or if they're going to try and counter-comp this. And it looks like we are going to have that mirror match. Rubcub on the Holy Paladin, Wealthy Man also on the Fire Mage, and Jax on the Assassination Rogue.
This is something I'm really excited about. This is what I thought the first match would be. I think it was really smart for Northern Blue to use that Retribution Paladin as sort of a counter. They did an excellent job running it, but this Rogue, Mage, Paladin composition mirror, really excited to see it. Blade's Edge Arena, kind of an interesting choice. We did see Panda Global actually against Temple Storm select this map, I believe, and they did a really incredible job on it. So I think this is a map they're well practiced on, specifically in the mirror.
Yeah, and this is the true test for Panda Global. This is the matchup they wanted. This is the matchup they excel at. If they can't win here, they're going to be in big trouble for the third round.
So I think what we're going to be seeing in this matchup, guys, is a lot of swaps onto the Paladin. Be sure to watch them and see how they cycle through their cooldowns. Both of them are going to have an Assassination Rogue training them down. Both mages are going to be trying to get out as much crowd control and as much consistent damage as possible. Minpoike getting sapped up there by Jax right away. Wealthy Man looks like he wants to open out onto him. The Garrote going out onto Minpoike. Looks like both Rogue Mages are just swapping completely. The Blind going out onto Jax as well as Wealthy Man. Wealthy Man going to be using that adaptation out of that immediately. Both Paladins just being relentlessly trained down. Who's going to do a better job surviving?
Yeah, and this is just a healer race here. Rubcub getting trained, Minpoike getting trained. It's on the Mages to CC each other. It's on the Rogues to train down the Paladin as best as possible. Both of them topped off right now. Rubcub down one cooldown. He has used the wings. They're actually all playing the same Spectre, which is incredible to me to see in the first place. But yeah, Minpoike sitting at half. He does finally pop his wings. A little bit ahead of Rubcup here because he's going to have almost no defensive cooldowns. There is a bop of some sort coming out from Rubcup using one of his first ones there.
Yeah, Minpoike able to top himself off with that Divine Favor. His wings are about to expire, though, taking quite a bit of damage, down to 40% HP. Aura Mastery coming out, trying to get out those heals. Jax relentlessly training him down. Kidney Shot going out onto Rubcup as well. He's also taking quite a bit of damage. Vendetta is available for both of these rogues. Minpoike down to 10% HP, actually having to use that bubble. The bubble coming out doesn't come out from Rubcup, and they are able to take him down. Rubcup not using that key defensive cooldown. They were in such a good position, a little bit ahead. Rubcup just a little bit of a misplay, a lot of damage coming in at the end of that cast. And for now, Northern Blue is going to be up 2-0 in the series. They got to be exceptionally happy with that.
Oh yeah, you can just see the looks on their faces right now. They're very, very excited about that. And that's definitely one of those sort of like fluke moments that you kind of feel like you got it for free, essentially, because it was just that tiny little mistiming from Rubcup, not quite able to get that defensive Divine Shield out in time to be able to save himself. And just that millisecond that it takes to actually activate that button can sometimes be what it makes the difference between living and dying, as we just saw.
Yeah, Rubcup has got to be upset about that. He was ahead of Bubble by about 4 seconds, which matters so much in this matchup. You need to have that Bop and Bubble available for when you're about to die, and he was trying to use it to the very last moment so that he could top himself off and his team will be slightly ahead and they'll be able to kill a little bit earlier. But when you do things like that, when you try to be greedy, sometimes these things happen. You just immediately lose the game, and that's what they're going to suffer here. They're now down 0-2, and that's really rough, losing a mirror match in such a way like that where you're confident in yourselves, but when you drop a game to a mistake with using a defensive cooldown, it really stinks.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. But I really feel like Panda Global, they need to refocus here. I mean, that was a close game. They were ahead, in my opinion, for just a couple of seconds. It was just so remarkable that both teams were doing the exact same thing, trading out the exact same cooldowns. If you look at the CC and the damage, it's relatively even as well. So yeah, Rubcup not getting that defensive cooldown, that bubble off, maybe being a little bit greedy. He did take a lot of damage. There was a lot of incoming burst. So well done by Raikou as well as Waz to burst him down there, taking him by surprise. But that is going to leave Northern Gaming Blue in a 2-0 position. Now it's up to Panda Global once again to decide what map they want to be playing on.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting match for sure to have seen. And actually, we do have Rich standing by, able to give us some insights on that match as well. Rich, what do you got for us?
So I don't know if you guys remember, one of the big storylines coming in to this tournament was the fact that Northern Gaming Blue didn't perform particularly well in the mirror matchup. But I got to talk to Raikou about that before the matches even started. And one of the big things that he did say was with the changes in Legion, it actually really favors his team because they know where they can put the pressure on and they can find those cracks. They're not the type of team that really kind of waits for a long time. They're not saying, oh, in 2 minutes we're going to go in. They just kind of feel it. And if Waz or Raikou calls it out, they go for it. And it looks like it's paying off for them, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a really, really interesting point. The changes in Legion, they don't just make it so that you kind of have to relearn a little bit. They can also actually completely change how a given matchup actually works out and how it works for your individual team. Sometimes a comp that you used to play a certain way, maybe struggle with a little bit, now all of a sudden it just fits your individual play styles a little bit more. How do you guys, do you guys agree? Is that what you think might be happening here?
Well, that's one of the nice things about Rogue Mage going through the expansions. It seems that that synergy you build always pays off because the composition always works out so well. Rogues and Mages just synergizing so nicely. But of course, we can see the map that Panda Global has selected. It looks like they're going for that Tol Varan Arena. Now, Rodney, do you feel like we're going to see a mirror again?
I do think we'll see the mirror. I don't think they're saying, hey, you know, that team is better than us. They're thinking, you know, we messed up one little thing. Let's not let that happen again, and let's play our game. Because they're not as comfortable on the Shadow Priest mage, but they are comfortable in this mirror matchup. It's one of the ones they practice the most. They practiced with Northern Gaming Red prior to this. Before regionals, they were saying, we played 1,000 games against this team. We have so much Rogue Mage experience, and they don't want to drop another game like that.
Yeah, and that's something that pretty much all of the teams were saying, is that we're going to have to beat a lot of Rogue Mages to be able to get through this. And even the teams that play Rogue Mage were like, we need to figure out how to beat the other Rogue Mages. So that's something that we know that Panda Global has been practicing a whole lot. We're about to find out here if Northern Gaming Blue is going to go with that Rogue Mage Holy Paladin setup again, or if they're going to change anything up. I agree. We're probably going to see the mirror match again. Do you think there's any chance of them trying something a little bit different, maybe going back to the Ret Rogue or coming up with something else?
I feel like there's no reason for them to change. It's a very safe option once again. They just won the mirror. If they do end up losing the mirror, they can always fall back on the fact that they're going to be able to counter comp Panda Global. So Panda Global in a very curious position competition right now, but it does look like Northern Blue is locking in that Fire Mage, the Assassination Rogue, and that Holy Paladin once again, and I still can't get over how close that last game was.
Oh, yeah.
And despite, of course, RubCub not using that bubble, they were literally just trading cooldowns exact same times. Pretty much the exact same CC was going out, exact same damage, so it really just shows how evenly matched these teams are.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to watch the start because both Paladins were on opposite sides of the map. One was under the bridge, the other one was on top of the bridge. Both Rogue and Mage opened on them and said, all right, I don't care what the other Mage and Rogue are doing, let's just kill the Paladin. And it didn't work out right away, but it was awesome to see them all combine together and collapse into that one center pillar at the bottom.
Yeah, it was kind of like there were two separate games going on for a second, and then it just sort of all coalesced into one. So Panda Global is locking in that Rogue Mage Paladin once again, Holy Paladin of RubCub, Fire Mage for Wealthy Man, and Assassination Rogue for Jax. Just kind of saying, okay, we know what happened there. Just didn't push the bubble in time, but we got this. We're going to try it again, and we're going to come right back into this. And honestly, I respect that a lot. It's really, really easy to let something like that get under your skin like right away and think to yourself, oh, this is terrible. We're so bad at this comp. I can't believe that we made that mistake. There's no possible way. We're going to lose, et cetera, and you sort of let that rattle around in your brain, and it really affects you. But Panda Global here basically saying, nope, we know what happened. Let's just get right back into it and try it again. And that's exactly what we're about to see here. Northern Gaming Blue up 2-0 versus Panda Global. If Northern Gaming wins this one, they're going to close it out 3-0, but if Panda Global wins, they still have a long road ahead of them to get back.
I think it's very likely we'll end up seeing the exact same strategies coming out from these teams. Actually, Raikou getting sapped up there. They want to open up onto Minpoike, capitalize on that sap. It looks like Panda Global a little bit ahead right now. Minpoike getting cheap shot off the sap, going out onto RubCub as well. Are they going to be able to open up onto him? Minpoike trying to connect, already down to 50% HP. Northern Gaming Blue way behind in this opener.
Yeah, and Minpoike actually mounts across the map to RubCub, gets some heals off, and he's actually a little bit ahead now. RubCub isn't really able to get anywhere just yet. He has to use his trinket as well, taking a ton of damage from Waz. Waz really getting the better end of him compared to Jack sitting in a full Nova right here. He's going to have to get out of that with his Cloak of Shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. RubCub actually playing Relentless, so he already used his human trinket. He's going to have no more stun breaks. Minpoike decided to use that trinket, so he's already trinketed. I believe he's actually used his human trinket as well, so he's going to have no more stun breaks besides that Blessing Protection, as well as that bubble. RubCub doing quite a bit of damage. The kidney shot going out onto him. Raikou able to spam out those fireballs. Wealthy Man doing an incredible job using that Dragon's Breath to slow down some of Raikou's damage. Wealthy Man actually deciding to Ice Block out of that Dragon's Breath immediately, keeping up the damage on Minpoike. Minpoike now, once again, forced to use that bubble fast.
And RubCub does not have his bubble used yet. He's trying to get away right now. Please do not make the same mistake as Ben. Yes, he uses his bubble. He's able to survive. Minpoike now has no bubble, and Waz is on the run because he knows once Jax gets back to him, he's going to be in trouble. He only has bubble available. It should be coming off cooldown soon. He'll be able to use it, but there's a cheap shot into RubCub. He's actually under fire before Minpoike is getting away, sitting at 10% HP. He doesn't want to go down here. He doesn't have any cooldowns available, and he just drops. Waz and Raikou take him down way before Minpoike is even attacked.
Minpoike had such impeccable positioning there. You realized he was a little bit far behind. Just used that pillar to completely run. Raikou doing an incredible job with that crowd control, spamming out those polymorphs, making it impossible for them to reconnect onto Minpoike. Meanwhile, RubCub was stuck in the middle of the map. He had nowhere to go, bubble fell, and they were able to reconnect and take him down.
And that, of course, means that Northern Gaming Blue, they're going to take this series 3-0, and that's also going to mean that they are our first team to qualify for the championship bracket at BlizzCon. They will be advancing out of their group, winning both of the series that they played in, and they will be moving on and playing at BlizzCon as well. Of course, everybody, we're not eliminating anybody here today, so everybody's going to get a chance to play at BlizzCon, but getting into that championship bracket right away here at opening week, that's got to feel good.
Yeah, it feels incredible. Not only that, but on the opposite side, losing your first game means you just have to sit on that loss for the entire week until BlizzCon decides to pick up again. So, of course, Northern Gaming Blue going to be feeling really good right now. And honestly, I'm just so impressed with this team. These guys are making all the right plays. They're making all the right decisions in terms of their initial picks in these games, the compositions that they're running, and they're just playing flawlessly.
Yeah, and being able to take a team like that out, that was their strongest matchup. That was their strongest lineup, and they beat them handily in the mirror matchup. So very impressed with NG Blue here.
Yeah, I got to say, got to talk myself up a little bit here. You all were saying Panda Global, and I was like, no, you know what? I think NG Blue might have this. And then they just take a 3-0 sweep. So put that point on my list. I give myself a little gold star. I did a good thing. But speaking of people who do good things, we do have Rich Campbell down on the stage, ready for our winner's interview. Rich, take it away.
I'm here with Minpoike after an impressive victory, and now Waz actually kind of cornered me before the match even started, and he was just like, oh yeah, if Minpoike plays well, we will win. Do you think that that was the case?
I think we all played really well as a team and individually. and I think that was the key to everything. I don't think it more comes down to me as an individual player, but more as a team. We did it together, so.
And there was some incredible teamwork in those matches. One other thing I do want to touch upon, you're one of the most interesting people I've met. We got to talk a lot about how one of your focuses right now is just self-improvement, whether it's in the game or in real life. Now, how much do you think that those out-of-game life improvements have affected your gameplay?
I think it does much for me in terms of confidence and focus in games and just keeping calm and just staying calm basically in the games and being focused on the main goal.
And we definitely did see just that. You guys looked so calm, cool, and collected. Congratulations to you guys. And now, Josh, we're going to throw it back to you.
Thanks so much, Rich. Yeah, it's actually really interesting watching these guys while they're playing because you'll see like Waz and Raikou just standing there like shouting the entire time, screaming at their monitors, kill, kill, kill. And Minpoika like looks like he might be half asleep. He's just like super calm, just relaxed the entire time, not worried about anything. And especially for a healer, I think that's really, really important and really beneficial because when you sort of overreact to things and you like spend too many extra cooldowns keeping someone alive, you can end up sort of shooting yourself in the foot by doing too much and ending up not having those abilities or that mana even available a little bit later. I know that's something that Seedu's always been really good at as well, is he's the guy, I love watching Seedu play as Shaman because he's the guy where his entire team is at 10% health and he's like, you know what? Healing Wave is probably fine. That's all I really need right here. I'll just cast a Healing Wave, no problem whatsoever. But we do have a quick break coming up here. We're going to get this next game queued up for you guys. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.